Hello guys, and welcome back to World Tanks with Pandy. I'm on a test server and bringing you up in this video a quick overview of all 10 new Polish vehicles. Predominantly this tech tree is fairly new. We waited a long time for these guys, for the Polish hussars, as I love to call them, because I love those Polish knights from the medieval ages, from the Eastern Europe. They're really cool historical guys, and these tanks are somewhat hussars for me. And big shout out and hello for all of the guys from Poland. I think this is a really nice moment for you guys that you finally have your tech tree. I'm coming from the Balkans, and hopefully we're Balkan guys gonna get our tech tree someday if we get enough time. But any babbling about that, let's go and focus to these Polish tanks. At the beginning we have a 4 TP, the tier 1 tank, which is a fairly decent level 1 tank. You have two options to use a pop gun, or to do a bit more damage with the one shell like shot with not auto loading peppering gun. It has a small body, small little turret. It's gonna be this decent little tank if somebody wanna have fun in lower tiers. I think I won't, because as a lot of you, I'm fairly able to farm out some free XP until to the tier 5 or tier 6, because these lower tiers are not that interesting to play. At the second place there is a 7 TP vehicle, which is pretty much the same. It's a light tank. Polish Hussar starts with the light tanks at the beginning until the tier 5. They're all fairly similar, like they all have the big stuff about it is that these Polish tanks all have bigger guns, sort of saying bigger alpha damages for their tier, and that's some remark for them. Also at the tier 3 you have a 10 TP vehicle. There's like looking like a fairly similar tier 3 vehicles, like nothing too shabby. It's a cute tank. Like this ridiculousness, I don't know what it is, but we saw it at the British tanks as well. Next at the 4th tier, it's a 14 TP, where you're gonna have like it's gonna go up in terms of damage per shot. Like this is a 52 penetration gun, like some auto reloading gun. Maybe I was trying to try it out on the test server yesterday, I don't remember, but as you can see I equipped the auto loading gun, which has like 4 shells in the magazine, which is, well, it's interesting stuff. Like, and you can have a bigger gun with more penetration and more average damage, which is fairly nice. And yeah, like seems to be cool. At the tier 5 you get a bit serious, because these starts with the medium tanks, and you can see it's a fairly big tank, 25 TP to tier 5. I was putting all of the equipments and 100% crew, because I will try to do a review for all of them. It's just it's gonna take some while, and probably never gonna happen for the lower tiers because it's painful. And yeah, this vehicle, like, it has it seems like it has its own personality. Like, it's still a tank that does like the alpha damage is still not climbing that big, but usually at tier 5 the maximum, I think the maximum average damage is 110. This one has a 135 as average, so basically you're gonna roll even higher than that if RNG gods help you out. It's a 75 millimeter tank with 135 average penetration, which is fairly good. That makes me thinking about the can probably play this at tier 5, but I don't know, like honestly not that sure. 175 penetration is okay. You'll be able to penetrate lots of tier 7s where you're gonna fill in with the matchmaking. Next we go to the 40 TP. This vehicle I actually managed to play yesterday, and no, I played the tier 7. Sorry for that. I didn't manage to play this one, but this one plays out a bit differently in manners that you're able to equip a 90 mil gun, which is not a joke. Like your standard ammo penetration is 156, but with gold ammo you have the penetration of tier 7 vehicles, which is really good, but not that good in manner, which because basically even tier 7s are struggling with tier 9s and 8s. I like it, the tier 6, like it will be viable because this gun reminds me of a Hellcat gun, which is doing a favor to the Hellcat pretty well. So I think this not gonna be a bad vehicle as well. It's just gonna be situational, since at tier 6 you cannot expect that your armor gonna do miracles. Like you're gonna face tier 8s and yeah, tier 7s that can pretty much overmatch your even turret. Turret is strongest part at this vehicle, as I managed to see over here, and the hull armor is pretty decent. Like it will be okay against lower tiers, but the same story for all of the tier 6 vehicles is that at the upper tier you'll be in the bunkers. So at tier 7 we have a 45 TP. The vehicle that I actually enjoyed playing yesterday, it has a 192 penetration gun, the top gun. I'm only speaking with the top gun because I think the all stock guns are pretty ridiculous on all of these tiers. Starting from the tier 5, I'm gonna show you something right now I remembered. You're gonna encounter, like after tier 5, I think you're gonna you'll be forced to play one gun per each tank more, and basically you will start to encounter more and more these free XP bumps, like these bad guns that they are really bad, that are only half good for use, but only a bump until you get to the top gun and then continue grinding out. So they basically force you either to free XP all of the tank and then start the grind, or suffer enough time to get to the top gun and then start playing, which is really, if you ask me, it's a really dick move. And as for this tier 7 vehicle, it's pretty much the same story. It's just that you don't have that any gun like this to install. But at tier 8, which I'm gonna go back to the review, there you go again. Like this is a XP bump again, 22,500 XP. Like really wargaming. Like we already had this bullshit with German tanks, like unlock 5 guns until you come to the last one that is actually worth playing, and that's such a dick move that they are keeps happening to this game. I don't know why. I managed to get the 1 win probably out of this tank. Like this vehicle reminds me of the IS-3, which we're gonna compare later. I'm gonna do the in this video compare of the all tier 7s, all tier 8s, 9s and 10s. It's gonna be a bit longer video, but you're gonna get covered for the Polish tanks, just to see all of the statistics compared to all others with all top equipments. Now, of course, I don't have a skilled crew because nobody of us have a skilled crew and all tanks. It's just that the fairly stats from the beginning. It's looking like an IS-3, smells like an IS-3. It's not an IS-3. But it has one weakness that reminds me of IS-3, and this is this bit of armor over here. Like your turret armor is 210, but this is a weak spot. This is probably something like 150. IS-4 has that dumb thing at the top. Like taller vehicles as a mouse type, or when you're shooting above, shooting in this plate, you're gonna penetrate. And this cupola, I managed to figure out yesterday in a hard way against tier 10s that it's a weak spot that can be sniped. For some reason, it's easily sniped. The armor from the front is something that is really nice. The hull armor is 110. I don't know what's that effective, but it's sloped and you can use it. I think this is a weak spot. I'm gonna to explore the gun, the top gun. We're speaking about the top gun. It's a 420 alpha with 218 penetration, which is not bad. 245 for the gold ammo, which I don't think it's enough. With this state of armor in game and this tank gonna encounter tier 10s, I don't think it's enough, because there are armored TDs that having like effective armor ridiculously big for weak spots. Yeah, I'm talking about the Bobject that is still wreaking havoc around the battlefield, even though they said they nerfed it. But you're gonna suffer, of course, with needing to grind out this gun which is pretty much useless, as you can see. 175 penetration. Who does want to play that gun at tier 9 game, not to mention the tier 8. And of course there is an option to do a 105 mil gun with has a 320 damage per shot and has a 192 average penetration, which is fairly okay. It's okay for grinding tanks, where you probably gonna see like it's a starting gun with that's a good stuff. It's just that I don't like this story that I told you about a few moments back. Like this is a useless gun that they put in just probably because of people that are free XPing the tanks and they want to get to the tier 10. They want to squeeze a bit more from that. This Top Gun, I forgot to tell you that reload time, when I think this is with like ventilation and large caliber gun rammer, it's 10 almost 11 seconds, like almost. And basically I think that the tier 8 is the first tank in the Polish Tech 3, a heavy. Heavies also start from the tier 7. I failed to mention that. But the tier 8 is the first one that gets an option to use a vertical stabilizer, which will be, well, it's gonna suck for a lot of guys. And this tank is a pretty mobile stuff. It doesn't feel sluggish. It feels really good and maneuverable. It has a 1450 hit points, which you're gonna see later in a comparison. And also, like, yeah, I don't think I need to tell you anything about this. Like, if you want to go in detail and check it out, you can download the test server and play a test server. But if you're lazy, watch the video. We're coming to the 50 TP, the tier 9, which is a bit weird looking like tank. It has a fairly okay look. sort of saying. This tank, like, I don't know. I'm not that sure that this tank is like it seems quite a balance. It's just that it's the only thing that concerns me is that this big of an alpha damage with a tier 10 gun. Like it has some advantages and it's had a better mobility than a premium tank, the one that is in the premium shop. Gun stats and turret placement, that all seems to be like okay. You have like I don't know, 8.8 degrees of gun depression, which is really nice, but it's not anything special in tier 9 and 10 game. And it seems like it seems like not that balanced, because it gets an alpha damage, but it also gets a good DPM, sort of saying. You can see that it's 2240 average damage per shot. And like I thinking that aiming time and all those other stats, like, are they okay? But I think either the reload needs to be bigger for this alpha damage, or they need to nerf the average damage per minute somehow, like to decrease the average damage per shot to 500. I think it's too much for now, but I don't know how much like people are listening to in the forums. So yeah, all in all, good gun. It has a good mobility and 2000 hit points. Hull armor is 120. You don't gonna bounce anything with this armor in higher tier games. The turret is holding up. Like there is no anything that will surprise you. Like turret does hold up and you can go hold down. I don't know what's the specific turret armor's capabilities, like sloping, all that, how much effective armor you get. Sorry that I dozed off at the moment. Fairly normal stuff at the tier 9, like you have this gun that has a fairly okay rate of fire, and average damage per minute is fairly okay for grinding, so it's not that horrible grind. This turret, this stock turret, I don't recommending it using it, because let me show you something. It's basically tier 8 one, which will be penned over here and over here. These are not the spots that will bounce. You want to grab the bigger turret as fast as possible. And yeah, that's it. Let's just go to the tier 10. It's a 60 TP. It's a behemoth of a tank. Like it has a 2600 hit points. It has really good turret armor. Like turret armor, it seems like it's unpenetrable. Not any weak points that I know of, and didn't got shot at that much. Probably this can be a weak spot, but I'm not sure. The hull armor can be trollish and bouncy, but I also think that this is a weak spot because it's actually a flat surface. It's not anything that is sloped. This is sloped, and this is probably 160. Lower plate is probably something like 100ish or something like that. It's really powerful vehicle. Let me just show you why. It has a 750 average damage per shot gun that has a 250 regular penetration, 317 with gold ammo, and you reload like this is only with the vents, and the large caliber gun rammer it's 16.45. With Brothers in Arms it's probably going down for at least 0.38 as well, so you're going to the field around 16 seconds with some consumable. You can go under 16 seconds, and like the average damage per minute will be even bigger. You can also use a vertical stabilizer as well. It has 8% of gun depression from the front, which can be useful for some of the situations. The vehicle is not sluggish. 35 of the top speed is like really decent, and the tanks are really going that speed. The view range is fairly decent, but you're gonna go face into face with this vehicle. I don't know. It seems like it's a balanced vehicle, because it doesn't have any overpowered hull armor. It's gonna all be about using it hull down, semi hull down, just like an IS-7, for example. But that alpha damage is gonna be really satisfying, bullying people with higher alpha damage. And yeah, I think it's the penetration is a bit creepy, being that much. I think 305 average penetration with premium, it would be enough, penetrating even the hardest targets. But they're probably gonna give it like this because they don't want to do it any differently. Um, uh, Basically, I wanted to show you like all these tier 7, 8 and 9 and 10 stacked all together. Like for example, tier 7s, I already have them over here in compare list. Basically, these are all of the tier 7 heavies in the game currently. So how does the Polish one get stacked? In terms of average damage per shot, it's fairly even with all other tanks. Like they're all anime tank is set up with the DPM gun, not with the derp gun. Next stuff, with the penetration, it has a really big penetration, but not that big as Germans and for example Americans and all that. It's a bigger penetration than most of the Soviet bloc tanks, and for example bigger than a Black Prince, IS-2. Anime has a smaller one, so yeah, like it's like that. Rate of fire, it's pretty decent. Like it's fairly okay for this tier. Reload of a gun is really okay for that 90 milligun that is using. The aiming time, it has a best aiming time of all tier 7s. The dispersion is reserved for the British and the Germans, but 0.37 for the 90 mil gun is not that bad. Survivability, like it has a fairly okay HP pool. The armor is nothing too shabby. It's a standard tier 7 armor. Like the turret armor is okay. It's only worse than anime and the American one. Basically really good sort of saying tank. Weight to load limit and engine power and all that stuff, it seems to be far much better than the other tanks, and traverse speed is godlike. It's the same as the IS, and we all know how IS is dominant at the tier 7 as a really good king of the tier 7 and then the mid-range heavy tanks. Also concealment, it's pretty similar as for the all other tanks. The view range is nothing too shabby. Like the Germans, yeah, they're really good, and Americans and France and anime, like they're all better than this one. But this vehicle somehow fills into this role of the Eastern Bloc countries, like Soviet tanks, Chinese tanks, and in regards of spotting. Yeah. So basically, this is for the tier 7 vehicle. Let's just do quickly comparison for the new tier 8 heavy vehicle. Like from this side to other side, like I don't know. Anyways, like we're gonna start from the average damage per shot. Like it's the biggest one out of all. Only VK has more damage per shot, I think. In the next column, average penetration is like fairly decent. The only 5100 has something that is not in the similar range, and it has a higher stuff. Oh my god, I misclicked. Rate of fire, the best is at the Canaveral because they are the nation that is going for the DPM and not for the damage, but it seems to be somewhere in the middle or lower as but that's the kind of stuff that we can expect. Like this reload is not that good, but you have a 420 damage per shot option. The gun depression is it's fairly standard stuff as the Germans and the Soviets. Basically seems to be fairly okay. The aiming time, it's well, it's a decent stuff. Like I cannot say the average damage per minute. Like it's on Canaveral has it better, and fucking annoying. And for example, like it's fairly similar to the Soviet ones, and that's it. That's it. The armors, as we said, like the IS-3, it reminds me of an IS-3, but IS-3 has a gargantuous armor, and I think the armor at this one is fairly okay and balanced in regarding of the armor. I think it's really fairly balanced, nothing too creepy, but okay to survive. The mobility, on the other hand, speaks about the really good story. Like it's a maneuverable vehicle. Traverse is really decent, and basically not that good as a Frenchman. But Frenchman has a paper armor, so it's balanced like that. But this one is fairly good on the move. Concealment, it's a heavy tank. I don't care about the concealment, honestly. It's crap. And the view range is like it's fairly okay. Even it's classed more or less like a Soviet vehicles. So all in all, it's a fairly balanced vehicle. It will have its place somewhere in the middle, because it's a different vehicle. They want to go for the higher damage per minute with this one. It's just that that DPM is only like going higher at the tier 9, and it's fairly balanced at the tier 10 as well. Nothing to say less. Like maybe like I wouldn't change the 53 TP. It seems to be really balanced, and it was really satisfying to play yesterday. I'm gonna keep playing it a bit more to get the feel of it, but it reminds me of an IS-3. It really reminds me of an IS-3, and that's a good feeling because it's a really good tank. Tier 9 heavies, again we're gonna have a really big big list. And let's just put the checks polls, sorry, first this time, just to have it at the beginning. And right, let's just start. Like the average damage, it's bigger than most of the tanks, as I can see. Like it's bigger than most of the tanks. The only tanks that are having bigger damage per shot are like few of them. Like the penetration seems to be fairly balanced throughout the tiers. You can watch like most of these tanks like having the similar in that regard. Like the Conqueror has only for a bit, like for 9 penetration more, but they are it's fairly balanced in that manner. So the DPM, when you look at that as a total, it has it's a bit higher than other vehicles, but that's probably because it's a newer tank. It has a fairly good also aiming time, but not that good when you're watching the Germans and the Americans, Frenchmen, and all that jazz. The reload time, it's better than most of the tanks, but as I said, the rate of fire is better. It's just that saying, as I said before, the average damage per minute seems to be not that balanced, because this vehicle gets a good alpha damage, good pen, and a fairly good average damage per minute. And I think this vehicle will be changed, because it seems to be unbalanced, and as a tier 9 it seems to be really unbalanced. The hit points, it's fairly okay, a bit more than several other tier 9 vehicles. The armor is like it's a bit worse. I think it's a balancing factor, a bit worse only regarding some of the tanks, but I think it has weak spots. So basically it is fairly balanced in that manner, but the unbalance in the branch of the firepower. So basically that can be a problem. The engine is okay. The top speed is fairly decent and similar to others. The rear speed, it will not be a sluggish tank. It's not gonna be 257, but it's gonna act really okay. As I said, concealment doesn't concern me because it's a heavy tank, and light tank's gonna outspot it, and TD is gonna outspot it any day of the week. The view range is like, it is bad when you're looking at the Germans and all other taller vehicles. This one is not that tall, and yeah, but you don't care. At the tier 9 and 10, the other guys can spot for you, so it's not that important. Like it has around 400 meters view range that you can boost with that can be boosted with consumables and all that jazz, and with all that stuff, and it will be okay. It will be okay. It's not that like it is a blindish tank, but nothing special comparing to the other vehicles that has a really extremely good view range, like near to maximum, sort of saying, like on the all these city maps that we are playing all the time. Like who cares about the view range? Like we, for the longest time, we are not having anything significant. Like we have only few maps where view range counts as a bonus stuff, but rather than that, it's a fairly unbalanced tank. as the DPM. Like this will need to be nerfed. Like the you cannot have this gun and this DPM. You cannot take both. Anyways, let's go to the end of the line, and to inspect how this I will go in a specific way this time, since this vehicle is in my opinion, this vehicle is similarly comparing to the E100 and to IS4. Compared to the 100, same damage, better penetration, rate of fire is better, the reload time is better, the traverse speed is better. Yeah, saddeningly for E100, it's only have a 0.03 aiming time going for it against this tank, but holy shite, like the DPM is even better. Holy smokes, like, oh man, like they did it again. Like one more this is a one more tank that it got, and the E100 is not viable at all. Like compared to the Panzerkampfwagen, it's like they're not in the same league. It has a bigger DPM even than him, even than IS4, even the IS7, and the new Soviet one. The only E5 has a bigger a DPM in that manner. I'm not going to in detail because the only DPM matters. Super Conqueror has an insane DPM. Smaller alpha but constrained firepower with the high penetration. It's godlike. Look at this. Like the only 113 has a DPM near to this Conqueror, but and this 5A also, but it fails, like it fills into this whole, like only 3 or 4 vehicles. It's in top 5 out of 14 heavies. This one is at some top 5 places, like 1, 2, 3. Only 4 vehicles have a bigger DPM than it. Only 4. Only 4 tanks in this compare have a few bits of DPM. Only 4 tanks. Wow. Wasn't thinking that this is gonna strike me down like that. As I said, in the terms of armor, it's gonna be pretty okay. The ultra super heavies, yeah, it's not that super heavy, but it has enough hit points, 2600. It's okay because it's more than the Soviet guys and the American one and the French one and all that jazz. Like, let's just see the engine, the traverse speed. Like it's far more better than for example yeah, like it's far more better than the Germans. Like all 3 Germans are crap, and the pattern evolves. Like this Soviet one is crap as well. Like yes, the all others are having really good traverse. The anime is the worst, but let's just see the specific thumping power ratio. Somewhat really good. sort of saying. I hate misclicking these. I can figure out why now people are using tenks GG lol. It's not, and the view range is not that mentionable. So basically, in regarding of the DPM, it's in top 5 with the DPM. Just like a tier 9, it's actually having a ridiculous DPM compared to the like it got a higher alpha damage gun with higher alpha penetration, like with higher deep penetration values. It's better than the Germans. It's better than the Germans. It has a big better DPM than all these 6 vehicles. Like it left behind the Germans and the Soviets behind. Holy smokes. I don't know what they're gonna do, but it's probably because it's a new vehicle and they will need to do it like that. So yeah, this was a longer video, but I will now hunt the new maps and to see what they reworked at the other maps. Probably you're gonna figure out in the video that I cut some stuff and gonna try to speed up portion of this video to get it smaller. But this is overview of all of those tanks. I'll do my best to do tier 7, 8, 9 and 10 and some decent manner in next few days. So thank you guys for watching and hope to see you soon. Bye bye.